Hey, y'all, you welcome once again to Grief to Grace, that platform where we take you on a transformative journey from being stuck to being unstuck. And I am your host, Ruth Hephzibah, and I am so delighted to be here again on this beautiful Saturday morning. So, how are you doing? Because it is really great and sunny, and the whole fall season is all rubbish and all around. And I love fall. I don't know about you, but I really love this season because it's one of my best. So, how you're doing today? I hope you're good. I hope everything is working according to your plans and the plans of the Lord in your life. So today, like I said, I'm your host, Ruth Hephzibah, and it is an honor to share this sacred space with you today. So, what do we do here at Grief to Grace? At Grief to Grace, we guide you through your journey of grief. And we try to empower you by helping you embrace healing, transformation, and restoration as well as renewal in all facets of your life. And it is something that you need. And if you look at it, you see that, yeah, I've changed it for your psychosocial power because that's who I am, helping you to move from this stage that you're at to the next stage of your life. So, where are you at today in your pain? Where are you at in your grief? Where are you at in your journey? So today we're helping you move from pain to purpose, from grief to grace, and helping you attain your purpose, your transformation, and also as you transit from one level to another, helping you guide you all along the way using psychosocial skills that can help you. And I'm super glad that you're here today to be with me here on Grief to Grace on our podcast, and I'm super glad. I love you. And as usual, just before we dive into um, what we have for today, I want to encourage you to get our book, which is A Pen That Writes Grief. It is one thing that means so much to me because that is where we get money to actually support this particular podcast and the mission of Grief to Grace International. And I really hope that you will be able to support in your own little way. And I want to thank everyone that have been supporting us on Grief to Grace. I want to thank you for all that you're doing because if not for you, we won't be here. You know, those that keep following us, those that keep listening, those that keep supporting, those that keep sending messages and saying how much they value what we do. I just want to say thank you for being there. Yes. So today we are a lot, and I want to say that today's own story is different as usual. But when I mean it's different, I mean it is different. It is different. It is not the regular grief story that you used to, because this grief story has to do with the death of a child and also a court case. And it takes me back down memory lane the first day I got my ticket and I was told I needed to appear in court. I know how traumatized I was. How am I going to stand before the judge for because I had a ticket? And I really didn't know what to do and I was traumatized. I really was traumatized, and that trauma lasted for over 2 years. To the extent that when I see a car passing by, I'm almost like packing my car and almost running into anywhere because I just felt, oh, they're here again. So really, there are a lot of us going through this kind of grief where we are traumatized because of the situation that we are in or we found ourselves. And today we have a guest in the house who is going to talk to us about his journey. And before I introduce my guest, I'm going to give you have like a little break. Then I'll be right back to introduce my guest, and then we go from there. Ooh, so you welcome back. You are welcome back to this episode of Grief to Grace, and I want to welcome you again. Okay. And like I said, for those of us just joining us, I am Ruth Hephzibah and I'm the host here on Grief to Grace podcast. So today we have our guest in the house, and this person who we'll be talking with today and we'll be sharing his story like we do here on Grief to Grace. We just share our stories and we hope that people learn from our stories. So today, we'll be talking about with our special guest, and his name is Michael Watson. And Michael's story is not only heartbreaking but also powerful. So it is a powerful transformation that can actually transform your life. And like I said at the beginning, a lot of people are going through what Michael has gone through. When I was speaking with him backstage before we got in here, he said, "Oh, I'm ready to talk now. I think now is the time." So, over 30 years ago, this young man, Michael, had to undergo a lot of stress because of what he went through. And Michael had to go through what some of us mm, are going through today. And as a young social worker in his job, Michael was given a case involving a 3-year-old girl who where significant concerns arose around her safety. And tragically, this child was killed by one of her parents, and Michael had to face the trauma of attending the court. So, already struggling with personal issues such as guilt, depression, and marital problems, he had to also go through all of these that he of going to court and also testifying in court for all of this stuff. And today, Michael will share how he survived this traumatic experience and how he transitioned from this survival mood to the striving and ultimately found new ways to help other people who face similar harrow situations. And now Michael is professionally qualified. He is a qualified social worker in the UK, and he is an expert witness in court cases and the order of family court. So, giving evidences, his story is one of resilience, of faith, and the ability to turn unimaginable pain into a calling. So, like I said at the beginning when we started, I was like, Michael has been through just so much, and he has been able to transform all his pains into a purpose. So, Michael, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Thank you very much, Ruth. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And Michael is joining us all the way from the United Kingdom, and he has a lot to talk to us about today. So I will encourage each and every one of us to listen to Michael as he shares his story today on Grief to Grace, and the next voice you will be hearing is Michael's voice. But before I ask Michael again how he's doing, I just want to ask you, how are you doing? And I know that you are super good. So, Michael, over to you. Please, can you share your stories with our listeners?
Yes, Ruth, I will. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Ruth, for having me, and thank you, listeners, your audience, for listening to my story. And I'm so grateful to be able to share it all with you today. My story goes back a long way. It goes back over 30 years now. As I said to Ruth, and as Ruth correctly said, I was a young and inexperienced social worker when these experiences happened to me. I was only qualified for a year or two when I was given a case. I was allocated a case, and it involved a 3-year-old child, and there were concerns about the child, the parenting and neglect that this child was being exposed to. Anyway, I very soon realized when I took over the case that I didn't enjoy going to see the family. It was nothing to do with the little girl. The little girl was fine. It was much more to do with the way the parents behaved towards me. I could tell from the way they behaved that they detested me. Now this may or may not have been a personal thing. I don't know, but what was clear, it was that they didn't like me, and I fairly, I fairly soon realised that. Now, I remember one day, and in the UK, maybe where you live, it's good weather. Maybe where you live, you have a lot of sunshine. In the UK, it's not that way. In the UK, it's quite cold, and when you get a sunny day, even a sunny day, sunny days can be cold. But this particular day was sunny and warm, and when there's sunny and warm days, I normally feel great. I normally feel great to be alive. I want to get out of bed. I want to enjoy things. It puts me in a good mood. But this day I wasn't in a good mood. I wasn't in a great mood. I felt a bit low. I felt a bit weighed down, and I knew why I felt weighed down. I felt weighed down because I needed to go and see that family, because it was my job to go and see the child and see that she was okay. So I made my way to see the family. It was only a short distance from where I worked. It was about 10-minute walk, and I went into the building, up the elevators, and I steeled myself as I got out the elevator because I'd been there a couple of times before, and I knew that it was from the experience I had before that I had to steel myself. Anyhow, I knocked on the door. They came, opened the door, didn't say anything. They just walked back into the house. And as I stepped through the threshold of that flat, it was like stepping into another world. It was a dark, cold, unpleasant world. The flat it wasn't filthy, but it didn't smell particularly well. It was always had a musty and sweaty smell to it. The decor well, the decor was had torn bits on the wall. The wall was ripped. The wallpaper was ripped. The furniture was very sparse. The parents never spoke to me. If I spoke to them, they would when I spoke to them, they would give a grunt or a groan. They never smiled at any time. The mother, in particular, looked like she had a continual snarl on her face, as if someone has always done something to her. She always looked unhappy. She always looked a bit aggressive and mean. The only person, I mean, the father just never looked at me at all. The only person that showed me any degree of welcome was this little girl, this 3-year-old little girl, and she was in a playpen. It was like a little playpen. It had bars in it. Now, really, she shouldn't have been in a playpen. She should have been able to walk around freely. She should have been able to develop herself, walking, exploring, as most 3-year-olds hopefully are able to do. But she wasn't. She was there holding onto these bars, like rails, like she was in a jail, and she was holding onto these bars. And what I noticed that was that she was looking at me. Her eyes were always fixed. They were always trained on me. That didn't make sense to me. She wasn't looking at her mum. She wasn't looking at her dad. She wasn't looking anywhere else around the flat. Her eyes were just riveted, just fixed on me. That never made sense. I looked at her. She was a blonde girl, blonde hair. Her hair looked like it was a bit tangled, needs to be combed. Her eyes, which bore into me, I could see from the eyes that there was the stains of her tears down both of her cheeks, and the tears had run down her cheeks and were mingling with the snot on her nose. So her face really needed to be cleaned up. Her clothes were a bit grubby, and that's how she was every time I saw her. And as I said, she just continued to look at me. Well, it never made sense to me. None of that ever made sense to me. Anyway, one day I got a phone call. I was at home and I got a phone call from my boss, my manager, asking me to come into to work as soon as possible, saying there'd been a tragedy on one of my cases, and just requesting me to come into work as soon as possible. So I did so. I went into work. I didn't know what had happened. I wasn't even sure what a tragedy meant. I thought maybe someone's been hurt. Hopefully they're all right. I didn't think more about it than that. I didn't know what it was. When I got into work, my manager said to me, "Michael, would you like to please sit down?" I said, "No, no. Could you just tell me what's happened?" Because by this time I was a bit anxious now. And that's when she gave me the news that changed my world, the news that turned my world upside down. She told me that the little girl I've been working with had been killed, had been brutally murdered by her father. And as a result of that, obviously, apart from all the grief, the misery, the chaos, and the upset and distress that goes with it, I was also having to go to court. I also had to go to court then, um, shortly afterwards, to explain what I'd done and what I hadn't done, how I'd protected her, how I'd not protected her, what I'd done in relation to my work with with the child and the family. And I didn't know because I'd never been to court. I didn't know what it would involve, but I knew from talking to people it wasn't going to be pleasant. I also knew from the way that other colleagues, other professionals treated me now, in the way they treated me, that there was a distance between myself and them. They wanted to distance themselves from me. It was very painful at the time, but I recognized in hindsight what was going on. They were frightened, and they didn't want to be tainted with with what was going on for me. They didn't want to be seen in the light of also being the people that um, were seen as possibly not doing their job, not saving this child's life. So they didn't want to be seen in that way. So they distanced themselves from me also, and made it clear that it was my fault or my responsibility, or I should have done this or I should have done that. They didn't actually say as much, but it was clear in the way they were behaving. Anyway, I went to court. Um, I can't say what I had in terms of preparation because it it doesn't register with me now. Partly, maybe that was because I was traumatized and I had a lot of other things going on for me at the time. Um, but I have no recollection of receiving the type of support which I now know I needed. Yeah? And lots of other social workers and other, not just social workers, people need when they're going to court, when they're not trained to go to court or not prepared properly to go to court. So I went to court. It was the court was called the Royal Courts of Justice, which is a huge building in London, in the Strand in London. Picture a kind of a cathedral. It's a big stone building, very big building, stone building. When you go through the gates, you're led in. You have to go through the electric um, machines to make sure that you're not carrying any weapons or anything else you shouldn't be carrying. and you're obviously padded down and just made sure that there's you're not carrying anything you shouldn't be carrying. As I got into the court, into the huge hallway, I realised how cold it was in there. The temperature was physically cold, but it wasn't just physically cold. It was actually emotionally cold as well. I don't know if you've been to court, if you've ever been to court. I know, Ruth, you've been to court before. It's cold, and I say it's cold. It's barren of warmth because even though this was the family court, people are trying to get. Everyone wants to get get their case heard, get what they want done in court, and that involves the way people think that involves putting the other person down. So
Mm.
it's not a warm environment. It's not a nurturing environment. It's a very cold, emotional environment.
All right.
Not warm at all. Anyway, eventually I was I found the court I was meant to be in because it's a big place with many courts in the Royal Courts of Justice. I found where I should be. I went into that court and I was eventually asked to sit in the witness box. Well, when you sit in the witness box, it's a box that's quite narrow. So you when you sit in there, it's quite contained. You've got maybe a foot or two on either side of you, but you can't move beyond there other than when you're getting out. There's not much more room to move, and you can actually feel quite trapped in that box because you have to stay there. You can't move. Well, you can move your, your head or move your arms around a little bit, but you have to remain placed in that box until the judge releases you.
Mm.
And whilst you're in that box, you are asked questions. And you're asked questions by the barrister, and the barrister against you, it's called cross-examination, is asking you, many questions. And these questions are designed to trip you up. These questions are designed to show you as either not doing your job well. These questions are designed to make you feel bad. These questions are designed to show you up in a poor light in comparison to their client. So
Mm.
these questions were like thrown at me. So you can imagine it. So I'm there. I can't move away. These questions are being thrown at me because I wasn't experienced, because I didn't know how to handle these questions, because I wasn't knowledgeable enough. These questions were like darts. They're just kind of like these darts were kind of like flying through the air and they're hitting me all over the place.
Mm.
Not physically, of course. I wasn't in physical pain, but I was in a lot of emotional and psychological pain. And I couldn't get out of the way from these darts because I'm trapped in the witness box. And I can't deflect these questions because I just don't know how to answer them. I don't know how to deal with it. I wasn't prepared for it. And that's how it was going. My mouth was open trying to say something, but nothing worthwhile was coming out. I was stuttering and stumbling, and it was. At one point, I stopped and I just looked around the room and I thought, "This isn't right. This isn't right. Someone here must be able to help me. Someone here must be able to, care. Someone
Mm.
here must have some warmth. Someone here must have a heart." I looked around the room and I'm sorry, the faces were all harsh and cold. There was no one there looking there with any degree of care or warmth or nurturing. None of that was going on.
Mm.
That wasn't there. And I realised as I sat there in the witness box, um, that no one was coming to help me. There was no one coming to protect me. No one coming to save me. There was no superheroes who was going to come and save me. Nothing. No Marvel hero or anyone else who's going to come and make this better. This is what was going to happen. And as that reality dawned on me, I suddenly thought about the little girl, and I realised that she'd been looking at me for a reason. I realised that she had wanted to be saved. I realised that she had needed to be saved, and that is why she was looking at me, because she was hoping that I would save her. She
Mm.
wasn't looking at her mum or dad because she knew, even though she was only 3, she knew what she was going to get, what she was getting from them. She wasn't getting the warmth and care and love and nurture for them. She wasn't getting any of that. She was getting abused by them. So she wasn't bothered looking at them. Her eyes were only on me because I was her one hope. Her one hope. She was counting on me to save her, and I failed her. And I failed her not because I wanted to fail her, but because I just didn't. I couldn't understand what was happening. I couldn't read her signs. I couldn't read what her eyes were fully saying. I could see enough to see that she wasn't happy, but I couldn't read what she was saying. I couldn't put it all together.
Mm.
I should have done, but I didn't. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't experienced enough. I wasn't aware enough. I wasn't listening attentively enough. And I was also trying to deal with my own feelings about being there. Um, and that's where I was at that time. So it was, I can't pretend. When I look back now, um, this poor little girl, I can't pretend what I went through was anything to what she went through. What she went through was a million times worse. But I will tell you without a word of a lie, in all honesty, I wouldn't wish what I went through. I can't compare it with what she went through, but I wouldn't wish what I went through on my worst enemy at any stage, at any time. That's how bad it was. And it dawns on me that it took me 30 years to be able to, or more than 30 years to be able to express this.
Mm.
That's how long it took for me to feel able to talk about this story.
Mm.
Now I was in court. No one was coming to save me. No one was going to help me. I couldn't. I couldn't speak. I couldn't answer questions in a sensible way. The judge was looking at me like I was some kind of buffoon. They they were shaking their heads, and like I was a complete idiot, a complete waste of space, complete waste of time. That is the way I felt on that day. And as I said, it was, in all honesty, the worst experience I've ever had in my whole life. I don't know how long the ordeal went on that I was in court, but eventually it ended. And when it ended, I wanted to run a million miles away from court. I wanted to run a million miles away from social work. I never ever wanted to go there again. But something stopped me. Something changed. I can't say I was consciously always aware of what stopped me. But somewhere along the line, I made the decision. Somewhere along the line, I made the decision that that was never, ever, ever going to happen to me again.
Mm.
Never. And so I went back to court. And I went back to court time and time and time again until I got really good at going to court, really good at giving evidence, until I was able to give great evidence, until I was able to help other people to give great evidence, and able to write my book, Family Court, Giving Evidence in the Family Court.
Mm.
Now, fast forward to today, I am very confident. I'm very able to do so many things. Court no longer it no longer phases me in the way it used to. It doesn't anymore. And what I realized is that although I wasn't able to help this little girl, and I wish I was because I live with her eyes, her experiences, her face, her expressions. I will always remember it. I can't help her, but I can help a lot of other people make sure that they don't go through anything like I went through. I can help them to piggyback from my experiences, to learn from my experiences, learn from the things that I did wrong, where I wasn't good, where I wasn't able to do certain things, and they can learn from all of that. Now, going to court is a very very painful, can be very traumatic, can be very stressful, and can be very frightening because you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's coming. It's not something you're aware of. It's an alien world, almost like going into that family home I went to. It's an alien existence. It's not something that most people are used to. If you're not a legal person, it is not something that most normal people are used to. So people are very frightened of that. But And as a result, a lot of people don't think they can get through court. But I've developed a four-step system, a four-step process, which I'm going to talk about for a little bit while now. In order to give great evidence at court, right? In order to get the result that you want, that's right for you and right for your family or right for others, you have to have and work on this four-step formula, four-step process. This four-step process is called CALM, CALM. The first letter is C, and C stands for calm. You have to be calm when you're going to court. Now, most people aren't calm when they go to court. Most people are frightened because terrified because they don't know what's happening. They don't know the process. They don't know what's going to happen. They're worried about what is going to happen. What's the result? How is that going to impact on them, their life, their children, everything else? So instead of being calm, they're all over the place, worried, anxious. But that doesn't help you. That doesn't help you for 1 second, because when you're at court, the judge is looking at you. You are being scrutinized. And not only is the judge looking at you, but the barristers who may be cross-examining you are looking at you. And they're watching you carefully to see, they're trying to weigh up who you are all the time. And the barristers, when they see you nervous, you're making their life easy. Yeah, because they know exactly what to do to push your buttons, to make you nervous, to make you not behave the way you need to behave. So you need to be calm and in control of your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. That's what you need to be when you go to court. And that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't just happen like that. You need to work on that so that you can be calm, because that's how you have to be. So that's the first step in the process. The second letter and second step in the process begins with the letter A. And A stands for attitude. You have to have a great attitude when you go to court. It has to be a great attitude. If I was to ask you if you've seen or noticed anyone with a poor attitude, I'm pretty sure you could say you could see someone with a poor attitude and you can see them a mile off. You can just look at them and know they may not be shouting, they may not be swearing, they may not be cursing other people, but you can see just from the way their facial expressions are, their body language, you can see that they've got a bad attitude, or that attitude is not a positive one. Now, nowhere in court at any time is it beneficial to you or anyone else to go to court with bad attitude. It doesn't help you, because once again, the judge is looking at you and the judge is assessing you, right? And the judge is likely to assess you negatively if you've got a bad attitude. You're showing you've got a bad attitude. But also, the barristers are watching you. And if you've got a bad attitude, the barrister is rubbing their hands and they're smiling inside. They're gleeful, because they know they only have to say a few words to you and you will get upset and you'll get wound up and you'll get angry. And when you're angry, you can't listen, you can't learn, you can't respond, you cannot give good evidence. You have to be calm and controlled and with a good attitude when you're at court. That's just what you just have to be that way. There's no other way around it. The third step in the process is under the first the is the letter L, and the letter L stands for listen. You have to be able to listen, and it strikes me now when I think about it. When I think back now to all what went on, I wasn't able to listen to this little girl. Okay, yes, she wasn't talking, but I should have been able to read between the lines. I should have been able to read her expressions and have a greater understanding of what was going on for her. I should have been able to see that there was something that was really bad going on for her. Her feelings were not good. She didn't feel safe. She didn't feel secure. I should have also been able to read myself more, because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel secure. I didn't like coming to that home. And if it was that terrible for me to come to that home, what must it have been like for this little girl living there with parents who should have been there caring for her, who should have been putting her needs first, loving her, but weren't. But I should have figured that out. but I didn't. I was not experienced enough. I was too unskilled at the time. Also, you have to listen when you're caught. When you're caught in a witness box, you have to listen to what the barrister's saying to you or what the judge is saying. Because if you don't listen, you're not able to answer the questions. So listening attentively and listening reflectively and understanding what's going on all around you for yourself and others is really important when you're giving evidence. You have to be able to listen and listen well. Now, the final step in the process begins with the letter M, and M stands for mindfulness. You have to be able to not just listen, but be mindful of the evidence you give. Be mindful of what you say. Be mindful of how you respond to the questions that are asked of you. Yeah, you have to respond in a way that makes the judge that allows the judge to see that you're thinking about what you're saying. Allows the judge to see that your evidence, what you're saying, is consistent with the rest of the evidence you've given. It makes sense. It's well thought out. Yeah? So you have to be mindful, because if you're not mindful, you will just blurt out the first thing that comes into your mind, and you are likely to say things that get you into problems when you're giving evidence, and you don't need that, because barristers will make your life a living misery. And bear in mind, barristers do this every day. They're um, constantly cross-examining you, that not just you but other people. But we don't do it every day. You don't do it every day. Right? And even when we used to give evidence a lot of the time, when I went back to court time and time ago, it wasn't every day. It was maybe once every couple of weeks, or once every month, or once every 2 or 3 months. Barristers do this every day. That's why it's not a level playing field. It's not at all a level playing field. The playing field's heavily weighted in their advantage. So you've got to plan, and you've got to prepare, and you've got to practice. So those four steps are so important for anyone who's going to go to court if they want to get the have a chance of nailing the result, getting the result that they want for themselves, for their family, and for their life and future. It is that important. Now, as I said, a lot of people are very nervous about going to court. They're anxious, they're frightened, they're lacking confidence. They don't know how to manage being intimidated in court. They don't know how to cope with that. But if you follow the 4 steps, it's not going to happen immediately. But if you follow the 4 steps, it will not be long before you are able. And I mean that it won't be long before you're able to give good evidence at court. It didn't take me 30 years. It didn't even take me a year. It didn't even take me 6 months. It took, once I started going back to court, I learned something new every time, and I just learned more and more and more, because I was motivated to learn. I made a decision. No one was going to do that to me again. I was never going to be destroyed at court again. And I wasn't. So you can learn if you want to. That 30 plus years, I'll just repeat that because I think it's really important. It didn't take me 30 years to learn how to be good at court, how to manage a situation, how to cope with cross-examination, how to give great evidence, how to give convincing evidence that a judge values above everyone else. It only took me a matter of weeks and months. The 30 plus years was because I couldn't face dealing with letting out how I really felt about that child and what I went through at that time in my life, when I was very vulnerable, when there's a lot of things going on. So 30 years was about how bad my experience was at that time. That's why it's 30 years. Now, when should you do this work? When should you learn about this 4-step process? Well, the best time to have learned that was yesterday. Because if you have to go to court, I want you to bear in mind, there's no one coming to support you. No one coming to save you. You are on your own. And if you only learn about, or try to learn about this stuff when you just before you go in the witness box, it's too late. You have to learn it, and learn it well, well before you give evidence, well before you're in court. And you don't know when you could be at court. You could be at court for lots of things at any time. None of us know when we're going to have to go to court. So we live in a situation, we're in a situation where we don't realize that we may need this tomorrow. We may need this 6 months down the road. We're not prepared for it. This is something I'm prepared for because I've been through it. So as I said earlier, if no one needs to go through this again because I've been through it. And if they listen to it, if they take on board what I'm saying, they'll understand how important it is. But trust me when I tell you, if you go through this, you might not have the child that dies. It may be your child that you may have gone for a split up or separation from your partner. It may be some other matter, any other matter which requires you to go to court. But what you have to realize is that the way that the court system is set up is in such a way that it's very adversarial. Very few people can go to court and come out without feeling in some way abused and bruised and battered. And it can stay with you for an awful long time. You don't need it. You need to understand what the court is likely to produce in you. So it's very important that you understand that and recognise that we all need this. This is information we all need. We just don't recognise that we need it. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, how can people really reach you? Because I think I learned a lot, especially with the first steps. So, and I know a lot of people may want to reach you somehow because they're going through similar situations. So, if
There,
they
there,
want, how can
yeah.
they?
There's. I hope I gave you. If I haven't, I will. I will. I've got. I'm on Instagram. Michael 240656. You can get me on Instagram. You can reach me on LinkedIn. Um, you under Michael Watson. I do write a newsletter. It's called the Incredible Witness Newsletter, and I write something on there weekly. So you can reach me on LinkedIn. On Facebook, you're just Michael Watson. You should get me on Facebook. It's Michael Watson. Um, I do have a podcast, but I put the podcast on hold because at the moment, although I believe and I have no doubt that many, many hundreds of, or millions of people need the podcast and need that information, as yet I haven't been able to get the audience that I want. So this is part of getting the audience I want and getting the audience that I need. And in getting the audience that needs what I have to offer. Um, so that's called the Incredible Witness Podcast, which is on Spotify and Apple. Um, but I think the best ways of getting hold of me are either Facebook or the Instagram or LinkedIn. Those are the best ways to get in contact with me. Um, yes, as I say, I'm on LinkedIn under Michael Watson. If you look up Michael Watson and not Incredible Witness newsletter, you will find me. Similarly on Facebook, it's just Michael Watson, and on Instagram, it's Michael 240656.
Okay, thank you so much. You know, this story is really like intriguing, especially for people when they just starting their career. There are a lot of things that you don't really know what to do. And when you faced in challenge with challenges like this, it can really weigh you down, especially when you in this kind of business that we do, like rendering services socially to other people. And so now I was just trying to think about it, at what point, because now you found peace, you found joy, and you're able to share your story. So at what point after the death of this 3-year-old girl and going to court and all of this, at what point did you come to forgive yourself and find peace amidst the trauma?
I would say it was a long time. Many, it was years. I would say years. I mean, as I say, it was a good 30 years before I felt able to share my story.
Mm.
Um, I knew that it's difficult to say, find peace. I would say for a long time I felt guilty. For a long many years I felt guilty. For a long time I felt I should have known, I should have known. But when you don't know, you just don't know. You can knock yourself as much as you want, but if you don't know, you don't know.
You don't know,
I
that's right.
When you know, it's easy. It's in hindsight, it's always easy to say I should have been done, I should have done this, I should have done that. But when you don't know,
You don't know.
there's no point in saying that because you just didn't know. It's also easy to do when you've been there, when you have achieved a certain level of understanding, a certain level of awareness. But before that time, you simply don't know. Um, but that didn't, because it's a very painful thing, and because it was part of my it was my career as well. Um, and because also in social work is a very, you're still caught in this kind of, you've got to give fantastic care, you've got to go brilliant care, you've got to not care about yourself, and you've got to give so much to other people. And
Mm.
don't get me wrong, you do have to give so much, you do have to give excellent care, but you can't give excellent care if you're not cared for yourself.
Mm.
You cannot do it, or you can't do it for any length of time. You have to care for yourself. And the people around you have to care for you if you're going to get the best out of this system, if you're going to produce the best work. And social work, unfortunately, is still a career, still a profession that doesn't fully recognize that, and doesn't, and it might recognize it, but pays lip service to that. It's still, you're still kind of, people are really, really pressurized to give the best care, and sacrifice themselves almost, in relation to the children and families they work with. And that comes at a cost. It's a major cost that if the profession doesn't realize it, and if society doesn't realize it, there are real problems that are likely to come up, um, likely to emerge as a result. And for me, I think, I only, it's when I started writing my book, the second book I wrote, that family court, giving evidence in family court, that I felt, and that was what, 3, 4 years ago, that I really felt able to share my feelings, share, um, what went on all those many years ago.
Okay.
Um, and that says a lot to me, because this is 30 plus years of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
You can imagine. I really feel so much for you, for the little girl, and all that happened all through the years. And I just want to thank you for sharing this powerful story. I want to thank you for sharing your journey with us, because this is one area that a lot of people get stuck most times. Especially, like, I know a lot of caregivers, a lot of people that work in the health sector, they get entangled most times in situations like this, and they don't know how to get away from it. And this kind of book and this kind of story is definitely going to help them. And especially when they get into such and they don't know how to face the situation, then this is one place you need to really reach out to Michael, because he is experienced in it. 30 plus years is no joke. It's no joke to be able to tell you how much you can actually go in your journey. So thank you so much for joining us again. I just want to say thank you. It's been so inspiring. It's been really like unimaginable grief that people really don't see much, like the I'm grieving, because they just see it like it's a passing phase in their life. But it goes a long way, because it affects your productivity, it affects the people around you, it affects just so much that's happening around you. And in your story also, you were talking about amidst all these things, you were going through some other grief, like troubles in your marriage, troubles in, and depressions and other stuff, and you still had to navigate it. Um, I know that may be a story for another day, but I really appreciate how far you've been able to move on with
Yeah.
this.
Thank you so much. Can I just say that if for people who are going through grief, they're going through hardship, they're going through difficulties, always remember there is another side. I mean, and you will come out the other side. Just keep believing in yourself.
Hmm.
It's hard to do sometimes, but believe me that there is another side, and you will come out the other side. Just get all the support you can. Take all the help that you can, because sometimes there are things we're tested. We're tested. Sometimes those tests are they're so difficult. But believe me, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if I can help in any way, let me know. Because one thing, I mean, it may not be about court. It may not have to do with court. It may be to do with court. But my experience lets me know that other people, anyone who goes through those sort of harrowing times, um, can come out the other side. And the important thing is you have those experiences. I have those experiences, and I know that I wrote my book, and I want to help people to make sure their life is better and that everyone else's life is better. And that's the mission that I have now. Get a
Wow.
better life, make myself better. Let me embody the world needs people to embody good ways, positive ways, so that they can all take our responsibility of making this world the way it should be, and it should be a much, 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 much better place than it actually is. And on
Wow.
that note, I will leave you, and thank you very much for listening, and thank you
Thank
for
you
having.
so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I just want to say thank you again. It's really been very inspiring. But we're not going to leave without talking about the three takeaways that we got from here, apart from the five and four steps, which is the calm, which he taught us, which means when you got there, just be calm,
Yeah.
and it's really very inspiring. So we also have three takeaways that I got from this, as usual, and one of it is that you cannot carry the weight of guilt forever. And because healing begins when you allow yourself to release it. Then, secondly, there is always a way forward, even if you cannot see it right now. So, trust in the process and lean into the support around you. And the last one is that turning your pain into purpose can become one of the greatest gifts that you can give to the world. So those are some of the things that I got from it, and I like the last one, which is turning your pains into purpose, because it is the greatest gift you can give to the world. So whatever you're going through right now, begin to see how you can find purpose in it. Begin to see how you can find purpose in that. And that takes us to our Bible verse for today. And our Bible verse for today is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6, which reminds us that we should trust in the Lord with all of our heart and lean not on our own understanding. In all of your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. And the other one is today's quote, which we're going to read, which is that the wound is the place where the light enters you. So even in your darkest times, there is always light, and healing is always waiting for us on the other side, like he said. So there's always healing waiting for you somewhere. Don't give up no matter what you're going through. And just remember that we are always here to help you, and that is what we stand for in here in Grief to Grace. At Grief to Grace, we believe that you can always move from being stuck to being unstuck. And that is why I am your psychosocial pal, ready to teach you all the skills that you need to move from one level of your stage to the next level of your life. And also, know that you have a grief buddy in me, because I am your grief buddy, and I am always ready to push you to the next stage and move you out of grief and take you to that stage of joy. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited that we stayed tuned to the end of this podcast, and I just want to say thank you. But as usual, I will want to remind you, don't forget to pick up our book, which is A Pen That Writes Grief, and I'm offering a special gift. If you pick it up and you send me a message, you see what I'm wearing. This is my name, Ruth Hephzibah. Okay, I can send you a T-shirt like this to you if you buy it and you send us a message telling us that you bought it, and you also put the hashtag, which is shirt, name shirt. Okay, so thank you. Remember to connect with Michael Watson on his Instagram, his LinkedIn, and his Facebook page, which is Michael Watson. And also, don't forget to get his books on Amazon. They can help you, because when you will not know how much it is like until you go to court, then you know how no matter, you sometimes you feel you just really so good, but when you get there you realize that no, it's not really like I think. So don't forget to stay connected with Grief to Grace. So here at Grief to Grace International, we are on most of all of our social media platform as Grief to Grace. So on Facebook, Grief to Grace; on Instagram, grief underscore to underscore grace; on TikTok, grief underscore to underscore grace; and also on YouTube, Grief to Grace, and on Spotify, Apple, and on all of our podcasts, Grief to Grace. So it's really easy to locate, and we have this our logo right there on all of our platforms. I love you so much. Continue to follow us, and like I said, we also have a group which is our Trashy Tribe, where we trash everything. But before I leave today, I just want to encourage us today. Please, if you know you love us, then you should be able to support our cause. And this is our cause that we are um, doing right now, and that is help a grieving family. When you click on this link or you click on this QR code, it will take you to where you can actually donate to Grief to Grace, and it will help us to be able to reach out to as many people. We have a lot that we want to do, that we're doing right here, and now we're going into a season where people really need a lot of help from Grief to Grace, and I know that you will allow yourself to be used. So we need gift cards for families. We need bouquets. We need just as many things in any way you can help, in kind or anyhow, but just help us. And when you click on that, you'll be able to reach out, or you go to our website on grief2graceinternational.org, and you'll be able to reach out to us there. So also don't forget to download our music. Don't forget to listen to all of our podcasts, and also watch our videos, and follow us on all of our social media platforms. And as you do, you are spreading this story. And don't lastly forget to share and talk to somebody about Grief to Grace. If it has blessed you, then bless somebody by just clicking on the share button and send it to someone. Copy the link, send it to all of your social media groups, and to all of your messages, and to your email. And I know that you want to be used by God, and God will surely use you. This is one platform God has given to us so that we will be able to help those who are grieving. I've been through grief, I've been through a lot when it comes to that, and I've been able to find purpose in my pain. And in the course of my pain, God took me through this journey and made me a psychosocial rehabilitation specialist. And that is what I've been doing all of these years. And today I'm still doing it with you and helping you in your journey. So thank you so much for joining us. And I know that you'll be sure to subscribe and follow us on all of our social media platforms and never miss an episode. Thank you. So, Michael, do you have any last word for our listeners today?
No, not really. It occurs to me that I could share my mobile um, phone if needs be, but
Okay, that's
really, I
fine.
think I'm okay. I can share that. It's a +44 because remember it's a UK number, so it's +44 07960 07063. And I just want to just let you know that no matter how bad it gets,
Oh, I think we lost him there. Thank you so much for joining us. But you got his contact number. Please continue to join him. And I will just give it back to you if you didn't get it the first time. And that is 1 minute. Let me get it back for you. And that is okay. And that is +44, which is UK um area code, and this is 7960 077 063. I'll say it again: +44 7960 077 063. And I know he's on WhatsApp. And you can reach him on WhatsApp if you cannot reach him directly. And he's also on Messenger. You can reach him. Thank you so much for joining. And don't forget to like, share, and also send messages to Grief to Grace. And if you have a story to share, share it with us on grieftogracenow@gmail.com, or you go to our website www.grieftograceinternational.org, and you will be glad. And you can also listen to other stories right there on our website, and you can share your story also on our website. Thank you, and God bless you. I love you. And you know what? Till we meet again in our next podcast, remain blessed and always know that you're not alone in this journey. You have me and God. Have a very